calling us to victory. Raise your head up, hear the sound. This is the time, this is His will, this is our God. This is the time, this is His will, this is our God. This is the time, this is our fight. Awake, arise. This is the time, this is our fight. Awake, arise. This is the time, this is our fight. Look up and you will see the fire. Look up and you will see the fire coming from the cloud. Look up and you will see His people rising from the crowd. This is the time, this is His will, this is our life. Look up above the water, see the Spirit working now. He's calling us to victory. Raise your head up, hear the sound. This is the time, this is His will, this is our fight. This is the time, this is His will, this is our fight. This is just the beginning. This is just the start.
All that glitters is not gold, but I get caught up in the lies. I've been fooling around, picking up shiny stones, trying to make worth of my life. All that this world has to offer is only pyrite, but your love is worth so much greater, and it's backed up with your own life.
Hello? We are ready for Rise with Courage conference.
Everything I need. Your heart is everything my heart needs. Everything my heart needs. Everything I need.
We are getting ready for the Rise with Courage conference. We will be starting here very soon. We are so happy you're joining us.
For a moment it feels nice, but on your love I can bet my bottom dollar, 'cause it's the only thing that truly satisfies. And all that this world has to offer is only pyrite, but your love is worth so much greater, and it's backed up with your own life. life, because your heart is everything my heart needs, everything my heart needs, everything I need, that I need. Your heart is everything my heart needs, everything my heart needs, everything I karat gold, and from me you don't withhold your love for me, your love for me. Your heart is 24 karat gold, and from me you don't withhold your love for me, your love for me, yeah. Your heart is 24 karat gold, and from me you don't withhold your love for me, your love for me, yeah. Your heart is 24 karat gold, and from me you don't withhold your love for me, your love for me, because your heart is everything my heart needs, everything my heart needs, everything I need. Your heart is everything my heart needs, everything my heart needs, everything I need. Oh, la 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 la. Your heart is everything my heart needs, everything my heart needs, everything I need. Oh, yeah. Sing. I know that you can do more in a minute than I can do in a lifetime. I know sometimes it's hard being in it, but your promises, they all mine. La, 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 la. Time after time I try to do it on my own to no avail. When I call you, you'll be there at the right time that you'll reveal. I take my vision with it, keep your will, and then the time will tell that your timing is so perfect. Let my soul say it is well. My God is always on time. Yes, He is. Yes, He is. My God is always on time. I know that there's no reason to worry. I got this peace for a lifetime. Yeah. I know my God, He's not in a hurry, and He moves His hand at the right time. In just a minute, you can move in a way I can on my own. If I wait upon my Lord, I can take heart, I can be strong. Let your will be done. I cast all of my worries unto you. I think of your timing, and it's always just so right. I know it's true. My God is always on time. My God is always on time. My God. There's so much more than I can see. I know you're taking care of me, 'cause what I want and what I need are not always the same. So let me trust you, let me know, and where you send me, I will go. There's peace above my understanding, only in your name. My God
whispers, felt them in quiet nights. The devil ain't got no hold on me, 'cause I know God is on my side. Amen. Ain't no reason to worry about what tomorrow's gonna bring. My God is bigger than troubles, and with a whisper, He commands the seas.
For more than 90 years, LPU has offered high-quality Christian education for learners who desire equipping that is centered around the Word of God and empowered by the life-giving testimony of Jesus Christ. The purpose of the Institute is twofold: the preparation of evangelists and missionaries for the field, and a thorough Bible instruction for those not intending to enter the field. And that is really key. The church, local and global, but also the marketplace in business, psychology, communication, strategic leadership, worship, arts, and media, and the list goes on. We are both and we truly believe the church is wherever we are, bringing the gospel of Christ to a broken world. This year, as a community, we will rise with courage and we will see God do amazing things.
My favorite thing about living on campus is how close we are to our classes.
I love the sports games, I love going to the sports games.
Is the night market where everybody can come together for a community.
It made me fall in love with this community, knowing that people care and people really see you since the moment I stepped on campus, and I just felt home.
The second thing I enormous like is the tater tots and Fridget time.
right, everybody. Welcome to our workshops that are kicking off today for our Rise with Courage Conference Day 2. We are so glad that you are with us. Thank you for joining us. This is going to be a good day. If you caught chapel this morning, congratulations. You were blessed. That was such a great discussion. If you missed it, don't worry. It's going to be on our YouTube. So just circle back over there after these workshops, maybe in between sessions tonight. But we are here for our workshops today, and so I want to give you a quick overview, a couple reminders, and then we're going to get into it. So today, this first workshop is how to discover your calling. We're going to talk more about that in a second, but that is where you're at right now. So welcome. We're so excited that you are here. Thank you for taking some time this afternoon to grow, to learn, to change, and just to be with us. Feel free to utilize the chat. We've got it here. We've got a couple presenters today, so we're super excited about that. Housekeeping, a couple reminders. If you have not already and you are a prospective student interested in coming to Life Pacific University, I want to encourage you to apply today. Apply today. Use promo code LPU1923. You'll apply for free, and that is going to enter you into our $1,000 scholarship for the fall of 2021. So please jump in, apply. If you're already in application, you've been entered into that drawing, so congratulations, and thank you for joining us. It's so great that you already are engaging with our family in this way. So we have leaders on this call. We have current students on this call. We have prospective students on this call, and we're super excited about it. So we've got this workshop, and then our very next workshop that's going to kick off at 3:30 is what we've learned in the past 365 days. And that's going to be our campus pastor, Daniel Fernandez. He's going to be here back again with a couple friends via Zoom, similar to the format we're about to do here. So those are my announcements. Now we're going to get into it. So I've got a couple people with me today, and we're going to spotlight them. So we've got Pastor Marcus Ellington, Pastor Matthew Tapp. They are here, and we're so excited to get into this topic. I just want to say a couple things about these two gentlemen that are joining us today. So Matthew Tapp, he is our Director of Enrollment Management here at Life Pacific University. He is a Foursquare pastor. He cares so much for our students. He's one of our professors for our first year seminar students. He leads our team really well. He oversees just about everything that has to do with this school. So he's overseeing our financial aid, our marketing, our admissions, and probably a bunch of other stuff as well. So we're so blessed and fortunate to have him here. He's been working with college-age students for a very long time now. He's an alumni of Life Pacific, so we're so excited. I'm going to have him introduce himself in just a second. But first person I would love to introduce themselves is Pastor Marcus Ellington, who's with us, and I want to read his bio, and then I'll give him the floor for a second. So Marcus and his beautiful wife, Star, have been married for 15 years. They have two wonderful children. Marcus is eager to see a generation that is passionately living out God's plan for their lives. Marcus is an engaging communicator who loves to challenge people to live what they believe. Marcus previously served the Southwest District of the Foursquare Church as the Next Gen Coordinator and pastored Lighthouse Church in San Clemente, California. He currently serves as the Foursquare National Next Gen Team Leader. Both Marcus and his wife are Air Force veterans and have Bachelor of Arts in Ministry Leadership from Vanguard University. During his leisure time, Marcus enjoys photography, fishing, and spending time with his family. Marcus, thank you so much. We would love for you to just take a couple seconds to introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, it is a pleasure to be with all of you. I'm seeing faces. I see some familiar faces as well. This is awesome. Well, as mentioned, my name is Marcus Ellington, and it is really my honor to be here. So I am currently living in beautiful North Carolina, Concord, North Carolina. I am a California native, born and raised, but God had a different plan for me. He's like, I want you to move to the Southeast, and that's where I am now. And a little secret, I have fallen in love with this place. It's really amazing. As Jacob mentioned, I get the privilege of serving as our National Next Gen Team Leader. And what that means is I love pouring into the next generation. So the leaders of the next generation and the young leaders like yourselves. So I'm really pumped to be here, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to share and to hear some of the things that you guys may have to ask.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marcus. Matt, a little word from you, sir.
Yeah, well, thanks for the introductions, Jake and Marcus. It's good to see you. Everyone on this call, it's really good to see you. Excited about this. Welcome to the workshop. I know we got some people on YouTube Live as well, so welcome. And I'm sure there's going to be people watching this after the fact. We hope that this is a resource for students and leaders, even beyond today. So whenever you're watching this, we're glad you're watching. But yeah, as Jake said, I'm the Director of Enrollment Management here at the university. And have been doing this for about 5 years now. And I'm just really passionate, I think, about helping people start that journey of taking steps towards what God's calling them to. That's at the end of the day what we do when it comes to admissions and recruitment and trying to connect with students who might be a good fit for the university. And more than anything, helping them become leaders who are prepared to serve God. So I'm excited for the conversation we're going to have today. This is something we talk about a lot. Marcus, I know this is something you're very passionate about, and with Next Gen and a lot of the areas you're leading, really making this a big conversation. So I'm excited for what we're going to dive into. And I want to encourage everyone too, please use the chat, whether you're a prospective student trying to figure this out, whether you're a current student trying to figure this out, or even staff, faculty members, or leaders. I think we're all thinking about this at different stages of life, and maybe even helping others prepare for it. So wherever your perspective's from, we hope you engage with the conversation, ask questions and stuff like that today.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Matthew. And I think we'll stick with you. I'd love for you both to answer this question, but Matt, I'll put you on the spot first. So, people are in this workshop titled How to Discover Your Calling. And I think that the first thing we should do is discover what calling even means. I want to know what I'm looking for before I know what I'm looking for. So, Matt, first to you, what does calling mean?
Gosh, I wasn't sure who was going to get this question first. And I feel like this is probably one of the harder questions on here, trying to define this, because I feel like a lot of people probably have a lot of different views of what calling means. And I think being in the church world, we've probably all heard messages around calling, around purpose. In fact, last night, Pastor Jason Graves shared a great message around calling and a lot of the things we'll even touch on today. And I think sometimes we can define those words super specific. I tend to use them interchangeably and kind of be okay with that. But I think there's two things right off the bat. I know Marcus, I'll let him unpack this even more because I'm sure he feels the same way. But we all have kind of common purpose and calling as believers, to love God, to love others, and to make disciples of all nations. I mean, we have the Great Commission to go and make disciples who would follow the ways of Jesus. And I think that's something we all share as kind of our calling and purpose, that if you're wondering what that is, I mean, that's it. Like, that's the simple, quick, short answer to the question. But I think what we'll probably spend more time talking about today is how that calling, I think calling looks unique to each one of us. It's kind of how we live that out. The work that we set our hands to, or the mission we're personally on to carry that out and to advance the kingdom of God in the world and within our own sphere, and teaching others to love God and to love people. So I think it's something that's common for all of us as believers, but then the unique way we might do that, whether that's through our career, ministry, or even other areas of our lives. So that's my take on it. Marcus, what do you think?
Yeah, Matt, thank you. I think you nailed it, man. The truth is, we're all called to be ministers of this gospel. Every single one of us have been commissioned by God to go out and make disciples. But as we're going, there are, as Matthew said, there are specifics that we begin to identify as we walk through life, what we call a calling or a purpose, the reason for which we were created, in a sense, that we begin to identify and realizing that, hey, we are gifted in these areas, and these areas that we're gifted in help us to be more effective in that ministry and spreading of the gospel. So I love how you put that, Matthew. As we're doing what God's already called all of us to do, we begin to see what are the specifics of that purpose and that calling.
Perfect. I love that. Thank you, guys. I think that adds a lot of clarity. Before we even get into the discussion, what am I actually looking for? What am I trying to discover? A couple quotes that I have down. I think the majority of them are coming from John Maxwell, who's a business leader in the industry today. A lot of times when people think of calling, it's, well, yeah, what am I going to do with my time? How am I going to get a paycheck? And John Maxwell says a job is an instrument, a calling fulfills your why.
Hmm.
So the calling is going to be behind, the drive of your life. And then one other thing is a calling is about a purpose. A calling cannot be retired from. And so that's a big thing that he talks about a lot is, if it's truly a calling, it's not something you're hoping to get out of in 40 years. It's something that is informing every decision you're making in your life. So super excited to get into this discussion with you guys. So grateful. I want to encourage everybody, again, feel free to use the chat. I think that these guys can handle some on-the-fly questions, so I might cut them off if I see a question pop up. So the first thing we're going to get into, and Marcus, I'll give this one to you first. What's the difference, and we started to kind of touch on it here, what's the difference between your calling and career?
That's a great question. So I like to think of it like this. How many of you know, or how many of you have heard of something called a career change? Sometimes we're going one route and we realize, for whatever reason it may be, I want to change my career. Well, the calling doesn't shift around with your career. Well, I was a lawyer and now I'm a doctor, so I guess my calling changed. A calling is something, and because obviously we are Christians, we have a biblical worldview, we believe that this is something that God has specifically made and designed us for. Now, I like to say it this way, it's not a one-time thing. It's not, I preached a message at this event, so I fulfilled my calling. It is your lifelong mission. It's what you're doing on this earth, why you were put here. So a calling and a career differ because the calling never changes. It is always there. It's deposited in you from God. Careers can change. We've all seen that, but the calling doesn't.
That's great. What about for you, Matt?
No, I think that is such a good point to kind of show the difference, because I think we often tie calling to our career. And I do think I always recommend, I think it's best to try to find careers that align with your sense of calling, but recognizing that they are distinct things. Even Wordwall often uses like vocation, and I tend to think of vocation more as kind of the career side of things. And we have so many different words for this stuff, but I think I agree with Marcus on the calling is something that is with you your entire life. And that may develop, that may look different in different seasons, but it's something too. And I think what I've found, as I've even asked this question, is I'll talk with high school students a lot, and even over the past few years. And if calling is just career, are we going to say that a student, a young person, can't really walk in their calling because they're not yet in a career? Or maybe someone who's retired or at a place in their life where maybe they don't have, maybe they just have a job and just trying to make ends meet, and they know this isn't some fulfilling work. And to me, the answer is obvious, that you still have a calling and can walk in that calling, even if it's not in a career that best aligns with it. I try to think of calling even more as kind of life mission. It's something that you express in your work. It's something you can express in your ministry, whether your ministry is your work or it's something you volunteer and serve and do. It's something you express through the people you interact with day to day, because I'm sure as we'll get into it more, I really how we impact people and touch people's lives. So I think that's something you're doing almost all the time. So I think they can be connected for sure. And I think that's one of the biggest things I think Marcus touched on. If we put our sense of calling into a career, and then we like that career needs to change, or we're no longer loving it, what do you do with that sense of calling? It will completely get rocked if you attach it too much to the career. So hopefully that helps clarify the difference there, and even makes people feel a little relieved that, it's more than just my job.
Yeah, I think that's a big relief, but I also think it puts a lot of weight to a calling when it's pretty obvious that a calling involves other people. It's not something that I'm just going to grit my teeth and get through on my own, but if it's truly a calling, it's going to be bigger than myself. And so I really love that. All right. Like I said, we have students on the call. We have young leaders. We have leaders who are seasoned in the faith. We have current students on. And so think back. For one of you, it'll be a shorter trip back than the other. And what would you tell yourself as a young adult as it pertains to calling. So when you were in the shoes of our college students or our youth that might be on or listening, what do you wish you were telling yourself as a young adult about calling?
Oh man.
Wow. I would go first, but it's taking
Matt,
me
you
so
have to
long to
take
think
this one
back.
first. Marcus, the other one.
Well, since it was like yesterday for me, no, I'm just kidding. It's, I can remember, and Marcus, I'm curious, when was the first time you even thought about calling? I remember the first time I ever thought about calling. I was at a camp up at Camp Cedar Crest. Had an experience up there where it was like Holy Spirit night at camp. The Lord was doing stuff, speaking to me personally, but someone came up to me and gave me a prophetic word and shared, I think this is a word from God, and kind of unpack some things about my calling and even gifting and things like that. And I was probably 12, 13 years old, something like that, at junior high. And it was a powerful experience. And up until that point, I had never really thought about my future in that way. I hadn't thought about college. My parents didn't even graduate from high school. My dad climbed out of a window in his sophomore year of high school and never went back. Or at least that's a story he tells us. So it's like in terms of the future and thinking about that, it was the first time I ever thought about it. And it was a very powerful experience for me. I think one thing that I wish I could have told myself as I especially got into my young adult years is that, and I wouldn't tell this to everyone because I think some people need to hear something else, but for me, I would have said, it's harder to mess up God's plans than you think.
It's good.
I think when you're really following the Lord, because I would find at moments, especially when this was such an early thing, okay, God has a purpose for my life, a plan for my life, and I wanted to make sure I follow that. And almost every decision was about what does God want me to do? And I think that's a good place to be. But sometimes I think I get a little too anxious or worried that I'm going to do something to mess it up. I'm going to make the wrong choice about where I'm going to go to school or what job I'm going to take or, all these different things. And I think it's very important to be intentional and seek the Lord in it, but also to trust that He's going to guide your steps. He's not a God who hides Himself. He does like to make Himself known. I do believe if you're seeking Him, living according to His Spirit, He's going to guide you. And even if you do mess something up, I think He's proven to us that He knows how to redeem things and make it work out. But on the flip side of that, because I have a lot of friends who I've known that never really thought about calling, never really thought about their future. And I would say be intentional. I think you got to be intentional. You don't want to go through the motions. Wait till you hit your 30s or something. That's when too many people finally start thinking about what they want to do with their life. I think you got to be intentional about it, but don't be anxious.
It's really, really good. Man, Matthew, the first time I heard about calling was back in the 6th grade. How many of you know that the 6th grade is an awkward year for everybody? I had a guy who was at a small church out in California, and a guest speaker came, and man, he called me out in the middle of his message and told me to stand up and just begin to prophesy over my life that I was going to be a pastor and preach the word. And it freaked me out. It's like, this guy's crazy, But the sad part is I went from there not knowing what to do. I wasn't at a church where we had leaders who would really come alongside you and teach you what all that meant. So when I got out of high school, before I went to the Air Force, I walked away from Christ. So I had this little hiatus of about 4 years where I was just kind of doing whatever I wanted to do. But it wasn't until I rededicated my life to Jesus and found this amazing church, a Foursquare church, that I got discipled and I was taught what some of these things mean. And I had leaders who would walk alongside me. And let me tell you, I've learned this over the years. That was nearly 20 years ago. But now as I look back, I think one of the things I would tell myself back then, if I was sitting with me, is very simple. I'd say every single step along the way is important in your development. See, a lot of times we hear this calling like you're going to be, or God has this for you, and our eyes get fixed on something that's way out in the future, and we start acting as if that has to happen right now. But the truth of the matter is every single moment is a developmental piece in that process, so that when you finally begin to walk in the fullness of it, notice I said the fullness because you can walk in it all that time, but the fullness of it, you begin to realize, wow, it was the stuff I learned way back when I knew nothing, that was really teaching me and shaping me and molding my character. So even everyone on the call, I'd say that, like, let's not miss the right now. Let's bloom and blossom when we're planted and enjoy the season of right now, because God is working things in us that He will continue to use through us as we go forward.
That's so good.
So good. Thank you, Marcus. And I'm going to go a little off script, and Marcus, it's going to force you to improv here.
Nice.
But just as we're having this conversation and where it's kind of going, I think it would be super helpful to hear from what I remember of your story. I think you have a great example in your life of the difference between a job and the success that can be found there and a calling. So, we've touched on, and in your bio, you were in the Air Force, but there's a lot more to it than in the Air Force. And so, if you wouldn't mind, talk about that for a second, because, to the outside or to someone who's maybe not pursuing a calling or understanding what a calling is, someone might say, hey, you were set. But the pivot, and what we can see from the outside, is that it was a calling that forced the pivot. But can you talk about that time in your life and the difference between that job that you had that projected, a rival, and a calling that pulled you out of it, essentially?
Yeah, that's really good. So after high school, I joined the Air Force. I did ROTC when I was in high school, so I knew a lot about the Air Force. I was excited to join, and I loved it. The title was longer than it needs to be, but it was Space and Missiles Facilities Technician. So I was in Great Falls, Montana. I would work underground on nuclear weapons. I mean, it's just a crazy job. Not many Americans get to see anything like I got to see. And it was a really, really awesome job. But I remember just through some varying circumstances that I knew I was supposed to get out of the Air Force. It was right around that time when I rededicated my life to the Lord. And I told you how I got out and I found a Foursquare church. I didn't know about Foursquare until that time. And I began to be discipled. But I've also found another amazing job that was based upon what I learned in the Air Force. So according to the world standards, I was making great money. I was in a kind of company that I could have stayed on and just retired there and made even more money as I went on. But I was feeling inside of me a call to youth ministry. And I remember praying and just saying, Lord, I don't know what to do. I don't know all the words to say. I wasn't fancy with my prayers. I was just being honest with the Lord. And I really felt like he said, leave that job and move closer to the church. Now, at this time, I was living about an hour away from the church, so it would take me a while to get to Wednesday night youth group and things of that sort. And I felt like the Lord told me to leave. And I remember I told my wife, and she's like, really? I'm like, yeah. She's like, all right, well, let's do it, So I left that job. I took a job way less money, closer to the church. But I was just talking to my wife, Star, about this yesterday. That was the step, I believe, that unlocked this thing for me, to where all of a sudden I was getting experience in teaching in the youth ministry and being around youth, learning from our youth pastor how to be a pastor and how to minister. And from then on, God just continued to open up the doors into ministry. And I began to see the pathway for my calling a lot clearer, because I took those simple steps of obedience to leave that job.
Perfect. Thank you. It just popped in my head, and I thought this is perfect for Marcus to talk about. So Matt, we're going to come back down to you, down on my screen at least. How, and we got a glimpse of it through that story there, but how does God speak to us about our calling?
Good question. Good question. I think it can happen, obviously, in a number of different ways. And I think the way God speaks to each of us, it can be very different. I mean, one thing I want to say too is even the word calling, because sometimes, and we'll probably talk about this towards the end of the call, like there's some practical ways to try to discern what is your calling. Pastor Jason talked about it this last night too, even with your gifts, your passion, your story. And there's some very practical ways to discern what has God put in your life and how has he made you to be, to discern your calling. But the word calling in itself implies that there is someone doing the calling. You feel called and someone is calling you. And I really do believe that someone is the Lord. He's speaking to you, he's put something in you, he's calling you towards something. So I think it is very important to listen to the Lord and seek him through this. Sometimes, it will be different for different people. It might be, just hearing the Lord in your heart and you kind of feel this tug towards something. I think even similar to what Marcus just described, like feeling that and kind of knowing, okay, there's something there. The Holy Spirit, heard a pastor talk about before, one of the Holy Spirit's names is something. There's something's telling me to do this. It might be through another person speaking prophetically over your life. It might be even moments in my life where I had the thought, I'm headed in this one direction, thinking this is how it's going to work out. people speaking even just life over me and calling out giftings and things they see in me that I had never really recognized before has helped me discern and figure out what exactly does my calling look like, and how is it going to play out. So I think there can be a number of different ways that the Lord speaks to us. It might be through scripture, it might be through a story we hear. I think often a lot of it even comes from voices of people we trust, and even processing things with them and things they see in us. So it can look a lot of different ways for a lot of different people.
I love that. Thank you. Marcus, I'd love to give you our last question before we kind of turn it over to both of you to close it out. But you talk about how, at the beginning, you talk about job change, and how that kind of is a good indicator of your job is probably not your calling. But can your calling change as you grow, or as you're going through your life? Can your calling change?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, different things come to mind when you ask a question like that. But I want to think of it this way: if we considered our calling to be the lane that we're supposed to flow in or operate in, my calling has not changed since the 6th grade when that guy spoke that over me. He was saying, "You're going to preach the word. You're going to be a pastor." I didn't realize it then. And there were different things that I went through in my life, jobs and things of that sort. But as I look back, I can see very clearly, oh, I didn't realize the gifting that the Lord had equipped me with so that I can fulfill that calling or operate in that lane. So what I realize is the calling doesn't change, even though seasonally we may be in different positions or different roles or whatever it may be. You're still called by the one who calls. I love how you said that, Matt. A calling implies that there's a caller. So the one who's calling you has called you to the same purpose, but the seasons change in life. Like when I just think about my story, I started off, like I said, in the military when I got out of high school. And then I had some secular jobs, and then I was bivocational for a while where I was doing some ministry. I was a senior pastor at a time, and then I was the Next Gen coordinator for a local district, and now I'm the national Next Gen coordinator. Well, those things have shifted around over time, but the call is still the same. I'm still someone who's gifted to communicate the good news of Jesus Christ. And I'm going to do that in whatever job, whatever career, it's my lane. So I would say just a brief answer would be the calling doesn't change, but the seasons and the things we operate in, those do change.
That's perfect. And I mean, you listed a perfect example. And again, just going back to your bio, you can see that in your life. Your calling stayed the same, but it looked a little different on the various levels that you're serving. So, all right, I want to give you both the time you deserve. So you each have about 5 minutes if you want it. So Matt, we're going to start with you. And I know that you have a kind of sort of a framework and a practical way of discovering calling. So I'd love for you to unpack that for us.
Yeah, totally. And just for those listening too, because I'll share something I think will probably be more geared towards like figuring out your calling and kind of for whether you're a student or whether you're 40, 50 years old and you're trying to figure this out. And I think Marcus will probably share even more for leaders in here too. So hopefully there's some good takeaways here. The framework that I'm not going to dive too much into it for partly because of time, but also because if you were with us last night, funny thing is totally unplanned. Pastor Jason, the framework he used is like the exact same framework with a few changes. There's some things I'm like, man, he does this a little better. I'm going to take this for the future. But it's not one thing that's important is the framework I'm going to present real quick. It's not something unique to me. This is, I think, a lot of different versions of this that people present and provide as kind of a practical way to answer that question of what is my calling and begin to discern that. There's 3 things, and it's really just 3 questions I would give someone that if you're thinking, what is my calling? How do I process this? What, and really, of course, seeking the Lord and all this, there's 3 questions I would say are important to process. And that's, what am I passionate about? What is it that I enjoy? What brings me to life? What do I get excited about? What am I passionate about? Second question would be, what am I good at? What are my gifts, my skills, my talents, the things I have potential for, the aptitudes? And the last question I would ask is, what does the world need? What does the world need? What's a problem in the world that you see that your heart is drawn to that you want to solve? And here's why these questions are important. You need passion because if you don't have passion, you're going to be bored with life. And if you're bored, you're not going to be fully engaged in what you're doing. You're not going to bring your creativity to it. You're not going to bring life to it. You're not going to bring energy to it. I would never say just follow your passions and that's it, period. I don't think that's the full equation, but I think it's important to listen to our passions and what are those things that God put in our heart that get us excited, that get us motivated, because that's going to cause us to bring everything we are into our work and to do it better. Whether that's our career or our ministry or our life, it's going to cause us to bring our full person into it. The what are you good at? One thing I want to say here, because if you were to ask me that question when I was 13, 14 years old, my answer would probably be like, I don't know, not much of anything. And I want to tell you, if you feel like that's your response to that, yeah, I want to encourage you that you are good at something. You have gifts. There's probably things you do better than anyone else, and you don't even recognize it because it comes easy to you, and you think this comes easy to everyone, when that's not the case. I want to encourage you to seek out and try different things, get different experiences, and ask people you trust. Say, hey, what do you see in me? What do you see in me that I might have some potential for this, some aptitude for this? And your gifting and your skills is going to allow you to do something meaningful. And you can probably see it's kind of like this Venn diagram, see how your passion and your gifting might overlap is very important. And even talking about those two things in particular, before we even think about the final question, I mean, one thing I like to point out is like, what am I passionate about? Your answer might be like basketball or something. And then you have to ask, because if you just do that question, I think, okay, I'm going for the NBA. That's what I'm doing. And it's like, well, are you any good at it? It's like, no, I can't shoot a free throw to save my life. So, but maybe you're good at communication. So like maybe you could do sports broadcasting or something where you're using the sport and communicating about it to have something meaningful. There's a lot of different ways you can play with that, but hopefully that illustration shows why those two questions, you need to have both of them. And then that last one, the most important question, what does the world need? Because at the end of the day, your passion, your calling is not about you. Your calling is about serving the Lord and serving other people. I think making a difference on this world. And I think that often Pastor Jason did this so well, comes from our story, maybe comes from a pain or a problem we've experienced that gives us a heart, but we want to make a difference in this in the world. It might come from, things you're seeing in society. I'm sure even just through the past few years and just the things going on in our world, a lot of people have probably discovered a problem they want to solve, something they want to make a difference in. And I think when you find, okay, how do I use what I'm passionate about? How do I use my gifting to make a difference in something that matters to me, something that matters to the Lord? I think that's really where you'll find your calling. And usually that may end up looking like a career that aligns itself with it, but that's also something you can begin to tackle now. You can begin to tackle today. So those are the three questions, the framework. There's a lot more we could unpack with that. But I know today we wanted to more talk about just calling in general. I'd recommend a few resources too. There's a book. I actually haven't read this book, but a trusted friend told me that the stuff I talk about is like directly from this book. So maybe I did read it and forgot about it. But Kingdom Calling is a book that unpacks these things. And then also just good podcasts that the person who talks about this type of stuff a lot, especially as it relates to career and things for those of you thinking about that. Ken Coleman, he's a part of the Dave Ramsey Network, talks about this stuff in a very similar way as well. So there's a lot of resources out there to unpack those questions and get clarity around it. So, and Jake, I know you've done that conversation too. If there's anything you feel like I've missed in that framework that you think we need to highlight, that, feel free to have that in.
No, that was great. I mean, you covered it perfectly. So, Marcus, now I know how to discover my calling, or at least some of the steps I can take to start figuring that out. But let's say I get to the end of that rope and my calling is to help others do the same. So, in the experience you have, how do I go about helping other people discover their calling outside of just saying, oh, go in the corner, answer these three questions? Not that that's what Matt's implying, but, now how do I go out and help others do what I just did?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like I alluded to the fact earlier that when I was younger in the 6th grade, this guy spoke these words over me, and I didn't have any leaders in my life to help me cultivate that. So I heard this. To me, it was a little bit weird, and I kind of just shoved it as far back as I could because I don't know what to make of that at the time. I didn't know what to make of it. However, fast forward when I got out of the Air Force and I was in a church where I had leaders who would be intentional about a couple of things. One, creating an environment that I can come to that was a safe space, a place where we can talk the things of God, and I could feel comfortable to ask questions and things of that sort. That really helped. But not only that, they were teaching from the Bible about purpose and about calling. I remember the first time I heard anyone speak on Ephesians chapter 2. And when they talked about the fact that we're God's workmanship and created for good works in Christ Jesus, which he prepared beforehand that we should walk in them, that like blew my mind, right? I'm like, wow, like God has a plan for me. Well, of course it piques my interest. Now I want to know then if he has a plan for me, what is that plan? What is that purpose? So my leaders were able to say, hey man, one of the ways you can find your purpose is to get closer to him and dig into his word, whether it's through reading and then through prayer and through worship, cultivating an intimate relationship with God. And what I found from learning that is through my whole life since, some of the biggest things that I feel God has directed me to do has come out of the most basic spiritual disciplines of spending time in the word, spending time in prayer, and spending time in worship. Simply when there's decisions to make in my life, I'm doing that. I'm coming to God and I'm reading his word and I'm asking him to give me wisdom and I'm praying about certain things. And before you know it, the Lord begins to, by his Holy Spirit, direct your steps as his word says. So I would encourage leaders to be intentional to create space and atmosphere where young people can come and they can feel safe and they can ask tough questions, and a place where you're intentionally teaching from the word, teaching specifically about things like purpose and helping them as they press into God. Because listen, I have an iPhone because I think iPhones are the coolest. If you have something else, don't worry. Matthew will pray for you before he goes. But the truth of the matter is, when my iPhone has an issue, which is rare, but if it has an issue, I don't take it to the dentist and say, hey, you fix stuff, right? Can you fix this? I don't take it to some random carpenter down the street and say, can you put this back together? I go to the source, the creator. I go to Apple. I say, hey, this has your stamp on it, right? Can you see what's going on here? Well, it's the same thing with us. We have the stamp of our creator. So when we come to him, there's no one better to reveal to us what our purpose is or the reason for our design, why he made us, than him himself. So I would just encourage you as leaders, and even those of you who will be leaders in different spheres of influence, make sure you're speaking on those things and creating an atmosphere and an environment of safety where people can begin to dig into that.
Good.
I love it. I love it. This is phenomenal. I wish we had way more time than we do. In the chat, guys, if we could just thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate it. You guys did such a great job. We don't have too much time for Q&A. We have a couple closing announcements, but thank you guys so much for being a part of this, for joining this. This was huge and informative, and I'm excited it was recorded. So a couple things to close, guys. One last encouragement for everybody listening, everybody on here. You know, you were created and you are known, and there is a calling and there is a purpose in your life. And God is ready to call that out of you if you haven't found it yet. And if you have, he hasn't hit the pause button. And 2020, COVID, whatever it is, 2021 still, a lot of times it can feel like we're in this pause. And I want to challenge you that God has not paused anything. And he created you for this moment. He knew that you would be right here in your development, in your life, in your calling, in your purpose right now. And he's not someone who's hitting the pause button. So one of the things that we're talking about a lot around here is that your calling is not on hold, your purpose has not been canceled. And however, to push into that and to lean into that, you have to rise with courage in this time. And so we are just so grateful for this discussion and this conversation, and we're excited for what the rest of today is going to bring. I know that Pastor Dan, our campus pastor, is going to come on pretty soon with a couple friends similar to this via Zoom, and talk about the things that they've learned in the past 365 days. You know, how have they been continuing to grow and dive into the Word? And so a couple announcements. We are going to leave this up. So if you just want to go stretch, go to the restroom, get a snack, get a coffee, whatever it is, feel free to leave it up. Come back at 2:30. It's 2:10 at 2:30. We're starting the next workshop. And then that leads me to my next announcement. At 3:30, we have our Rise with Courage game show. So at 3:30, same thing, jump right on this link. We want your camera on, we want you ready to go. We've got prizes, we've got giveaways, all sorts of fun stuff, but it can't happen unless you're there. So join us back at 3:30, but stay on right now. Take a rest, but get ready at 2:30. Pastor Dan will be here. If you haven't applied yet and you are a prospective student, I can guarantee you that 20 minutes is plenty of time to do an online application. Get to the end, enter LPU 1923 for your promo code. You'll apply for free and you'll be entered to win $1,000 for our 2021 fall semester. So I encourage you guys, if you are a prospective student, look into that. If you just want more information, go to lifepacific.edu/learn more. Fill that out, and we want to get you in contact with someone who's a current student who can just talk to you and give you all the info you need. You can connect with myself or Kelsey, our other admissions counselor. We'd love to connect with you. All that information is going to be scrolling for the next 20 minutes. We're going to have some Life Collective on in the background, and we will see you guys back at 2:30 for what we've learned in the last 365 days. Thank you again, Marcus. Thank you again, Matthew. We'll see you guys soon.
Everything my heart needs, everything my heart needs, everything I need. Security's not worth it, waiting fool's gold, but for a moment it feels nice. But on your love I can bet my bottom dollar, 'cause it's the only thing that truly satisfies. And all that this world has to offer is only pyrite. But your love is worth so much greater, and it's backed up with your own life, because your heart is everything my heart needs, everything my heart needs, everything I need, that I need. Your heart is everything my heart needs, everything my heart needs, everything I karat gold, and from me you don't withhold your love for me, your love for me. Your heart is 24 karat gold, and from me you don't withhold your love for me, your love for me. Yeah, your heart is 24 karat gold, and from me you don't withhold your love for me, your love for me. Yeah, your heart is 24 karat gold, and from me you don't withhold your love for me, your love for me. Because your heart is everything my heart needs, everything my heart needs, everything I need. Your heart is everything my heart needs, everything my heart needs, everything I everything my heart needs, everything I need.
This is just the beginning. This is just the start. A chosen generation. Rise up, take heart. They say we won't amount to This is the time. This is our fight awake. Arise. This is the time. This is our fight awake. Arise. This is the time. This is our look up and you will see the fire. Look up and you will see the fire coming from the cloud. Look up and you will see His people rising from the crowd. This is the time. This is His will. This is our fight. Look up above the waters, see the Spirit working now. He's calling us to victory, ready to head up in the sun. This is the time. This is His will. This is our fight. This is the time. This is His will. This is our fight. This is just the beginning. This is just the start. You delight in what you do. Work is not a chore for you. I can run. I can run. I just need to stay still. I just need to stay still and know that you are God. Know that you are God. You're here with me and so close to me. In the stillness I find you. It doesn't take much to see you. You're everywhere. You're everywhere. I just need to stay still. I just need to stay still and know that you are God. Know that you are God. You're here with me. I just need to stay still. I just need to stay
people of God. Yeah, you already know what's about to go down. Lift your voices. Come on.
In the evening, you are there. You're the refreshing morning air. As far as sight can go, up high on seas below. It's more than we can know. You are there. Through the night, you give us strength. Always there despite the rain. As much as we perceive what's near and far away, your presence is alive. You are there.
Sing it out, sing it out.
We were singing to you yesterday. We'll be singing to you here today. With our voices we will give you praise forevermore.
Sing it again. Come on.
Singing to you yesterday. We'll be singing to you here today. With our voices we will give you praise forevermore. And all God's people, lift your voices, praise, lift your voices, praise forevermore. All God's people, lift your voices, praise, lift your voices, praise forevermore. In the evening, you are there, the refreshing morning air. As far as sight can go, up high or see it's more than we can know. You are there. We were singing to you yesterday. We'll be singing to you here today. With our voices we will give you praise forevermore.
Can we sing it again?
We were singing to you yesterday. We'll be singing to you here today. With our voices we will give you praise forevermore. All God's people, lift your voices, praise, lift your voices, praise forevermore.
Louder and louder.
All God's people, lift your voices, praise, lift your voices, praise forevermore. Your saves yesterday and today, forevermore. Your saves yesterday and today, forevermore. Yeah. Hey, you're gonna be forever. For you are worthy, forever holy, forever worthy, forever, never, never.
Yesterday, today, and forever. You'll always be worthy. We'll forever lift our praise to the living, breathing God. Hallelujah.
We were singing to you yesterday. We'll be singing to you here today. With our voices we will give you praise forevermore. We were singing to you yesterday. We'll be singing to you here today. With our voices we will give you praise forevermore.
Come on. Sing it out, sing it out.
All God's people, lift your voices, praise, lift your voices, forevermore, forevermore. And all God's people, lift your voices, praise, lift your voices, praise forevermore.
Sing it again, sing it again.
All God's people, lift your voices, praise, lift your voices, praise forever, ever, ever. All God's people, lift your voices.
right, everybody. Welcome back. Thank you so much for coming back or joining us for the first time today. Welcome, Rise with Courage Conference. This is our second workshop for the day. What we've learned in the past 365 days. Pastor Daniel Fernandez, our campus pastor, is here with us. He's going to have some people, some guests joining him on screen as well, and they are going to talk about and walk through what we've learned or what they've learned in the past 365 days. So once again, if you missed our workshops yesterday, Pastor Daniel Fernandez is our campus pastor. He does such a great job of loving our students, pouring into our students, helping us grow, learn, and develop, and seek the Lord together. He helps us with all of our chapel stuff. He's one-on-one with students, praying with students, and just does such a phenomenal job. So you've already met him if you caught a workshop yesterday or chapel yesterday or today. But if this is your first time joining us for the conference, welcome. We are so glad you're here. Anything that you may have missed is going to be on YouTube, and we'll make sure that we email that out as well. But we are so glad that you're with us. It means a lot that you're taking this time out of your afternoon to grow, learn, and develop. So I don't want to wait too much longer. So I want to introduce Pastor Daniel Fernandez to start his workshop.
Hey guys, I was just looking on the screen and Ben and Joel, you guys, your names are Bianca Olthoff there. I think there was a little, if you wanted to change your names, I think you can now, just so whoever's watching knows that your name is not Bianca. So I was like, what the heck? What's going on? If you don't know, Pastor Bianca is going to be preaching tonight for our final session. So excited for that. Man, what an awesome time this has been. Those of you want to welcome, those of you watching on Zoom, and wherever you're watching on YouTube, we're live on YouTube as well, and whenever you're watching, because we are going to be posting this up on YouTube, on Instagram, really to be a resource for people moving forward. I mean, this year has been challenging. These 365 days have been a challenge in every aspect of life, businesses to the church, to whatever whatever involves social activity. It has been a challenge, and so I'm so excited to talk about what we've learned in 365 days. I've been saying this since yesterday morning, but what a shame it would be for us to go through an entire year and be like, wow, that was an experience, and not learn anything. There's a difference. There's a difference between experience and learning something. You could have the same experience, but not learn anything. So I'm so grateful to have two incredible leaders with us today, who I believe they didn't just experience 2020 and 2021, they learned something. And part of the leadership role is not only to learn, but to teach. And it's so cool to see what these incredible young men have been doing over this last year. And I got to actually meet Ben last night. His dad, Pastor Jason, spoke at LPU conference last night. Such a great message. I was literally sitting on the sides, just like taking notes. You already know it's going to be a good message when he brings out like a whiteboard and he starts writing on it. So that's how you know it's going to be good. But so grateful to have Ben. He currently serves as a youth pastor at Daybreak Church in sunny San Diego, just about an hour and a half south of us here in San Dimas. And we're honored to have Pastor Joel Tan all the way live from Singapore. Oh my gosh. And listen, Joel, it's like 4 a.m. there, isn't it? It's like 3 a.m. tomorrow.
Something like that. It's like 5:30.
5:30. Okay. Well, we know you get up at 5:30 every day anyway to pray, and you're fasting, every day. That's how you start your day. So, but listen, I know you're a day ahead, so I don't want to know what happens tomorrow. I want to be surprised. So don't tell us what happens tomorrow. Who says that's such a dumb time zone joke? Anyways, so excited to have you, Pastor Ben, Pastor Joel. We're going to be just kind of diving into this, what we've learned in 365 days. I have a couple questions, but I just kind of want to hand it over to you. Pastor Joel, would you start us out? What have you learned in 365 days?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that we've learned in the last year, well, it has been a year pretty much since for us, pretty much a year ago, we had everything go into lockdown, so couldn't do church, couldn't even record church. I think we pre-recorded like 8 weeks worth of worship and sermons and everything before all that went down. It was a long night trying to do everything before lockdown. But I think one of the first things that we really learned was like as a youth ministry, were we just events and programs, or like were we community? Were we community driven? And all through the whole period, I think one of the questions that we were asking ourselves was, okay, yeah, we've got that weekly online service, and that's cool and that's great. And, people are coming there, people are getting saved and all that kind of stuff. But how were we facilitating community? I think it was cool. We see in the New Testament Acts 2, like the believers weren't just like an organization or an institution. They were a fellowship, they were a community, and then as they were community, God added to that. So for us, that was one of the first things that we had to answer. Without the events, without the programs, was there still something? Was there still something left? And for us, that meant to like prioritizing even like community over content, being like, hey, let's just not put out as much content as we can, whether it's a YouTube thing or an Instagram live thing or like a Bible study thing or a graphic or whatever. But we wanted to make sure that all the content that we put out drove community. All the content that we put out came from a place of trying to create opportunities for young people to connect, to prioritize community. And so what I meant for us too was we had leaders commit to, hey, you're calling 5 young people a week. You are touching base with. We couldn't even leave our houses, so you couldn't even visit someone. Basically, all you had was like Zoom and phone calls. So I'd say that was one of the biggest things we learned, that the importance of community, the importance of really that connection. And hey, events are great, programs are great, we love all those, but at the end of the day, it really came down to just personal connection.
Dude, I mean, so much there, but community over content. I wrote it down because I'm actually going to steal all this and I'm going to use it for a conference this summer. So thank you for helping me. But community over content. I love this statement. You said content that drives community. Oftentimes we produce content, or we're striving to produce content that produces like self-promotion, right? Here's my content. Look how dope my video is. Look how dope my ministry is. And oftentimes the content we produce is more so geared for other ministries to see. And I think what this year is, what you're saying is, it didn't matter what other people were doing, because you were focused on your community. You were on everybody's on lockdown. You couldn't go to all that stuff. So content had to be driving community. It had to be unto community. And that's a challenge, but I think that's one of the things I'm grateful for 2020 and this year, is that it did focus us a little bit more. It's like, I don't just want to put out a video because it's like what you're supposed to do, but is this actually going to connect my community first? Is this going to build community within our sphere first? And so I love that, Pastor Joel. Ben, what's something, I know I kind of gave you guys like 3 to 5 things that you've learned this year, so we're kind of going to be jumping back and forth. But Pastor Ben, what's one thing that you've learned this year?
Yeah, man, I think I came out of a really interesting season because right before COVID lockdown, I was in a youth ministry role, kind of serving under a vision at a really large youth ministry, and made the step to kind of head off for my first time leading a youth ministry really by myself. And for me, what it really did in the season was it made me really redefine what success was for me, because my role before was like, okay, how do we cultivate the environment? How do we bring the hype? How do we make a space where, for me, it's always been about community and encounters with God. Those are the 2 things that are going to keep students around. And in my role before, my role was really, how do we get that encounter and that community rolling? And then I step into a new role, and the social media I was taking over had no followers. The team I took over had no leaders. There was no activity whatsoever going on. And for me, it was like God just checking, like, hey, we need to redefine what success looks like for you personally in this season. And then you're defining success for the leaders that you're building. And for me, it was the first time ever, like I got to slow down and check my motives behind everything I did. And for me, I've kind of redefined success in this season. One of the big things I've learned is just like success now is obedience in a pure motive. I think so often like the motive is something we just jump over. And something I tell our team all the time is like, hey, our motive matters way more than our product, right? Like that's why I love what Joel said is like, we have to have content that drives community, but how often do we just put content out, like you said, that's going to raise the eyebrows of other leaders or raise the eyebrows of other youth ministries following us? And for me, it's been the season of like, man, how do I have a godly success day by day by day in this youth ministry? With every meeting I have with a leader, with every time I'm in front of our team, with every Sunday night where I'm in front of our students now, we just got to have our first service inside since I've started. And for us, the journey has looked like we were on YouTube for 2 weeks. We were in a parking lot for 7 months. And then we just got to go inside for the first time. And it was a cool moment because I was able to look at a room full of young people inside that felt really normal to me, but also come into it with our team going, hey, no matter if we're in a parking lot, we're on YouTube, or we're in this room, our success is still our obedience to the Lord and still making sure our motives are pure. And for me, it's like, okay, how do I get my motives pure daily has been the biggest struggle and the biggest convicting part of me personally in this last year. Because like now even the struggle is like, oh man, like we're starting to build traction. We're starting to see some momentum behind what we're doing. And I want to fall back into the old tendencies of kind of prior COVID thoughts that I would have as a leader. And it's cool because now there's just this kind of red light that goes off in my head of like, man, why are you doing this? Man, why are you posting this? Man, why are you saying what you're saying? Are you trying to get a reaction? Are you really trying to cultivate an environment where people are encountering God? And something I've been telling our team a ton is just like, man, we need to, as a team, strive to recreate environments that originally called us. It's one of my favorite thoughts right now is like, I think often we'll just do things just to get a reaction. And we forget, like for me personally, it was like in a room of 12 and a worship leader stopped the set and spoke something over my life and called me into ministry in that moment. It changed my life forever. And I go, man, are we taking moments? Are we planning our services? Are we planning our gatherings, our meetings together with the thought in mind? Are we recreating an environment that originally called us to where we are today? And those are kind of been like two things I'll start with that have just been massively impactful in my life over the last 365 days. But it's like success, obedience, and motive. And then, man, are we recreating an environment that gets us fired up, that gets us, more in tune with the Spirit, ultimately overflowing into the students and our leaders.
Pastor Ben, that's so good. Redefining success this year, yeah, for a lot of us. And as a young preacher, young pastor, even toward the end of 2020, seeing stories of what we would call the epitome of success of pastors falling, and you start to kind of go, oh, that's what I thought success was, is that if I was at this and I'm preaching and I'm here and people know who I am. And I think what 2020 was, it was a 2020 vision year to see clearly the things that matter and the things that don't. And I love that redefining success. I wonder for you, Pastor Ben and Pastor Joel, what was that process kind of on a daily basis? Because like we talked about it in chapel today, but when we're so used to a certain like type of church structure, and we kind of, whether we like it or not, our identities are tied to preaching sometimes and attendance. They come, we feel good, we're preaching and they're saying amen, and we're like, oh man, that's awesome, look at this. What did that do to your identity this year? What did you learn about your identity?
Yeah, dude, I really, I've been way more intentional this year with the voices from the outside that I listen to. I'm like a preaching nut. Like my future wife in June is gonna kill me because I fall asleep to preachers every single night. It's like my routine. Like I'll put a sermon on and I'll just pass out. And I try and get like.
Fall asleep to last night?
But if it's you preaching, Dan, I'm wide awake and I'm locked in. But for real, like I've just always been like I take a lot of voices in, and I, like you said, I really checked myself, and I've started being really intentional with the ones that I'm allowing to shape who I am as a leader. Being just turning 23, I'm super moldable and I'm super open to just kind of, okay, let's shift this, let's change it. You know, I by no means feel like I've figured out really anything yet. And for me, it's been like Jack Hayford has been a massive one. That I've gone back to and began to read books again and hear story. I mean, there's a story that I came up on my Instagram of him, you know, opening up about something where he felt he was off in his life, and he repented to some staff members, and they took communion together in a room, and then he leaves, and that staff member was massively impacted by this. And these are guys, I think a lot of our generation, we don't really look to or think about too much anymore. And there's a long list of them. That I've been like, man, they had something figured out, because it was before they had the pressure of, you know, the social media world and, you know, the expectations put on us from other pastors and, you know, the standard set that we always see. But there was a heart and a character and a depth to their ministry and their identity, I would even say, that I think a lot of us young guys need to pick up on and begin to emulate in our own life. And so for my own identity, it was like, yeah, I think we all felt it as preachers. Like I was used to every single week getting in front of a group of students and communicating. And then that got taken away. And it was this weird, I don't want to say depression, but it was like almost like a crisis of like, whoa. Like I just feel so thrown off of like what life was, what it looked like. For us, we had a conference the Friday right after COVID shut down. So we were like in full prep mode for this massive youth conference, and Thursday night we have to shut it down. And it was like heart-wrenching, but it's like you look back now and I go, man, why was I so like tied up in making sure that happened? Was it so that people thought I was doing something that was impactful, or was it because my motive was I want to build the kingdom? And I think it's always a mixture of both, but I think for me, God used this just to check, like I said, motives in every situation. And what it did is it just slowed down life for me. And there's so many habits and daily things that I picked up on over the season that have stuck with me, that have really shaped my identity. Like the amount of time I got with my fiance, the amount of time I got with my family, have really begun to take places higher of things that I used to put really high in my life. And I feel like my identity is a lot healthier now in that, because it was like, whether we're on YouTube or we're in the room, like it doesn't really matter anymore, because I know what it's like to have it taken, and we're still okay, and we're still alive, and I'm still called by God. My calling just might look a little bit different as far as what it's practically walking out as. But at the end of the day, the calling doesn't change no matter how many eyes are on us. And I think that was a big thing for me in this last season that spoke to my identity. But I'd be interested to hear what Joel has to say about it.
Yeah, dude, that's so good. First of all, I think for some of us, like who kind of work off the reactions of people, you know, in a church service context, this last year was torture, because you're just looking at a camera. And I think for me, I had to kind of be like, you know what? I have to rely that I heard from the Lord, that God is going to speak to people. And whether I hear the affirmation from the people or not, I got to stop and know that God affirms me and go back to the basics of that. Like, you know, I'm looking at a camera. That sucks, because I'm used to seeing people and hearing them being like, oh man, that was good. I don't have that. And it is this identity crisis, but I love it because it forced us to confront the motive. I don't know who said it, but it was like, Ben, you said the motives. Like the motives are so important, and it's caused us. What I've learned is the motives really matter. And so, Pastor Joel, what about you?
I just want to say, I feel like, especially after having to preach the cameras, I think we've all got a little bit of crazy inside of us where you're preaching, you're trying to imagine their response, and then you're trying to imagine your response to their response. And like, okay, I'll give you a second to laugh. It's been a year, man. It's been interesting for sure. But I love what Pastor Ben said about redefining success, because I think that's literally one of the things I wrote down on my notes this morning was redefining the win. And I think because so much of our identity would have been like, filling rooms, standing on platforms and looking across the room and seeing physically, like you're saying, young people responding to Jesus, encountering Jesus. Like you said, for many of us, our preaching kind of feeds off like the crowd and responses in the crowd and what people are saying. I think what's been great about all this year, definitely it's made me kind of similar to what Pastor Ben was saying, really it's been so good that I've gotten to get time with my family more than ever before. I mean, working from home, I got to spend time with my wife, got to spend time with my kids more than ever. I got to see lots of like milestones for our younger one. She is 17 months old, and I got to see all these like little things, the first step, the first this, the first step that with our older girl, I never got to see. What it's really done, it's just made me like a healthier person, where I would say I think I might have been a lot quicker to go like, okay, I can't come home because we got to get this thing done. But right now, like, I think my identity in terms of like a person would be a lot more healthy and complete in terms of, hey, I'm a father, this is my family, and hey, we do this youth pastor thing, and we look after young people and we lead young people, yes, but it's a lot more balanced, it's a lot healthier. And I would say that. And actually, one of the things too that kind of, you triggered a thought in my head when Pastor Ben, you talked about redefining the win, was actually I think one of the most key things in this season for our team too was redefining the win for them as well, because the same process that we went through about like finding our identity in a packed out service or an outreach where 500 kids show up or 1,000 visitors, whatever, like if we didn't redefine the win for our team would still be looking for that win when we moved on to like, okay, now the win's like connecting with 5 people, now the win's like meeting one young person or getting a connection with the parents. And what we realized was that, hey, a team that doesn't win basically has no momentum and just gets stuck in a rut. And then that's when we start to see the leaders drop off, or like, hey, I'm out, like we're not doing this anymore, because they're still looking for old wins like in a new season. But I think one of the first things that we had to learn how to do was to redefine what that win looks like now. What was a win then may not be a win now. What is a win now we would never have looked for then. But what it helped us to do was, as we began to redefine the win, what we were able to do was also to create some smaller, easy wins where, hey, sometimes the win this week is that phone call. Sometimes the win this week is that one prayer you managed to pray with that kid at 2 a.m. on Zoom, whatever that is. But then as leaders started to win again, it just added momentum, it just picked up speed, and it just goes from win to win to win to smaller wins to bigger wins to bigger wins. And I think I just had a chat with my staff the other day, and I think over this last year, we've seen bigger wins than we've seen in the last 3-4 years in terms of growth, in terms of multiplication, in terms of discipleship. It's been insane, but all that started off from what Pastor Ben was saying, just redefining some of those wins, redefining success, and then seeing momentum just build and helping these leaders just be secure in what they're called to do in their identity. And hey, this is what God called us to do.
So let me kind of go a little rabbit trail off of some of the thoughts here. But what we talk about wins, we talk about redefining success. So what are some of the things that you started to do during this year that maybe you weren't doing that you're going to continue to do because it's something that it's like it can work in a pandemic or not? Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think something that was staple for me, as far as youth ministry, was always like, how do we get on campus? How do we get on campus? How do we get to public schools? And it was funny because obviously we drop in San Diego, and that's not a possibility right now. And God just checked me. He's like, hey, your prayer needs to stay the same. Like, pray to still get on campuses. It's just going to look different. And I had our team at one meeting say, like, we went and drove around to a public high school, and we were just prayer walking around it. And I can't make this up. I get in the car that night, and I get a phone call from my old high school football coach in the area. And he says, hey, do you want to come coach football? We need help this year. And I go, yes, absolutely. Part of me was like, man, I don't want to commit to another thing from 3 to 5 every single day of the week. But you know what? Like, I prayed that God would open up an opportunity for me to get on campus, and this is what it's going to look like this year. And I took it to our team, and it's funny, we got like 4 or 5 high school and junior high like sport coaches now who serve on our team, because we found that's the best avenue right now for us to get onto campus. But it also was so much deeper of a relationship than before, where we would drop into a lunch, bring pizza, say what's up, and then leave. This is like a committed every single day. I'm seeing the faces of the students. And it's funny because now it's like, in the beginning, I didn't have the like, just, hey, I'm going to invite you to come to our thing, because we didn't have a thing. It was like, no, I just love you because I love you. Like, I'm just going to pour into you and invite you to hang out with me and go surf with you, not so you can come to my youth ministry. We don't really have one right now. I'm the youth ministry. So let's just hang out and let's do this thing. And that's something now where I think, even looking at, say when schools do reopen, and say when things do get a little bit back like to normal, being creative with how we are infiltrating culture and how we are infiltrating the schools in this area, that has to stay the same. I think the model of how we did it before, and this goes with really anything, it's kind of all off the table. I think the basics are the basics, but how we do it now, all has to be like, for that was, I really believe the Spirit speaking to me and being like, hey, it's not going to be like going to lunches, but coaching football, and I think I'm kind of relying on the Lord to kind of open windows and doors like that more and more and more, and just being willing and available to say yes to them. And I can tell you, man, we baptized 3 or 4 of the high school football guys over the last 6 months, and most of them are coming to our youth ministry now. And it's really rad. But it's cool because we're seeing it all throughout our city of just like, hey, I used to play high school football. You reach out, and little do you know, there's a need and a help there. And you're also partnering with the school. You're helping the school. And now when things open up, like, we have influence on that campus because some of our leaders said yes to serving.
Ben, I think you bring up such an important point in leadership, that when you pray, God will, when you pray, not just a selfish prayer, like, oh God, I want another, car, whatever. I want more money in the bank. God's like, all right, maybe. But it's always interesting to me that when you pray for God open doors to serve people, God's like, all right, I got you. Open a door to serve. God's like, I got you. That, I love that you said that same day. And I just wrote this down. When you pray to serve others, God will open up the opportunity. And I think what's so wild, it's that we have to be willing to seize the opportunity, even if the opportunity is not, you weren't praying, God, let me show up on campus to preach the gospel. You were saying, God, open up an opportunity here. And God said, all right, football coach, that's the door. And oftentimes I think we expect sort of like revival, and God's like, here's a door, here's a coaching position. And how many times have we missed those moments though, because of like pride or whatever that thing in us is that we miss it. I love that, Ben. That's such a powerful story, but it's just amazing to see that you stepped out. And it's like, that's a big commitment. You're busy. You're planning a wedding. You're getting married. It's a lot. But dude, God is honoring.
Yeah,
He's
it doesn't
honoring your
take gifting to be willing and available. That's what I always tell our team. Like, you don't have to be the most gifted human being in the world to make a change. You know what I mean? Like, I honestly, I suck at football. Like, I was not that good. I wasn't that great. I still feel like I'm making things up along the way. I'm like, yeah, do it. Why not? But it's like, Alvante, this kid, he's a junior at this high school. He shows up and he sits in the front row next to my guys every single week. And every single week I see him, I'm like, yep, that's why, you know.
Yep. It's a constant reminder. I love that, Ben. What about you, Pastor Joel?
Yeah, I just want to say I love stories like that. That was so cool and so good. And I think definitely like because we redefined like wins and redefined success, and the things we're looking to do have been different too. I think for us, well, I talked about like community being one of the driving things, and so we basically not just as a youth ministry but as a church went like, hey, we want to focus on community, we want to shift community. And so what that meant for me on youth staff was actually telling one of my staff, like, that's your job now. Like I used to pay you for like all these other things, but now I want you to put office hours in the community. I want you to figure out like how to do it better, how do we connect with more young people, how do we build better community. And so that's probably something that's never going away. I think us challenging our leaders to call like 5 young people a week, that's probably never gonna stop too. I think what we've done more of was things that will never start again as well. So things that we canceled in this season that we used to think, oh, that was so key, that was so important, that was so we've got, this is just what we do. But when you're forced to cancel basically everything, it kind of makes you start stopping things. And so there's certain events, there's certain things that certain meetings that we basically just went like, we don't need that, you know. We're all good. We can cancel that weekly thing. We can cancel that monthly thing, and we'll still move forward. You know, this is what youth ministry looks like in this season. I think for me, it would also be those. Now I try to do like a weekly catch up with different individual leaders as well, and just to get into like the weeds of their lives, family stuff, school stuff, and all that. You know, all that kind of stuff with them, and this season has, I guess, forced us to do it more than we did before. And I think that's also something that we'd say like we don't ever want to go backwards from. And stuff like what Pastor Ben was saying in terms of just different ways of reaching out, where it's not just I'm trying to pack the room with kids, preach the gospel to them, and then do an altar call, but you know, that conversation with the barista in the coffee shop, that conversation with you guys have Uber, we have Grab, pretty much the same thing, but you know, you've got an Uber driver, he's a captive audience, he's not going anywhere, you know, and those conversations, and I think those are things that we're saying, hey, we never want to stop doing after this season.
One of the things that I'm hearing as a theme is what we've learned and redefined as success is more personal engagement. Whereas, you know, I think when students would come, you know, oftentimes you could get away with not having to know people's names or not challenging, you know, your leaders to sort of like, hey, really get in their lives. It's like, hey, when they come to church, greet them, hug them, hey, how are you? Awesome. They go, we'll see you next week. But it's sort of become more personalized. And I was thinking about this a few months ago because the challenge for us was, how do you pastor people that you're not able to see in person? And it dawned on me, I was like, oh my goodness, the Apostle Paul had the same problem.
True.
How do you pastor people that you're not able to see in person? And I just had this moment, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is not a new problem. And I was like, what did Paul do? He wrote personalized letters. He could have just written one letter. All right, mass text, all the churches, stop screwing around, stop being dumb, stop being, you know, like all this stuff, do church right, all this stuff. But he was like, no, Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Philippians, Ephesians, Galatians, and every single letter had a different tone. Every letter had a different theme, a focus, because his audience was different. Yeah, they're all Christians, but he understood the power of, if I can't be there in person, I'm going to let you know that I'm going to be personal. So I think personalized, I love that. I think both of you have said it, but having leaders personally call students, sending personal videos and saying, I thought this was crazy too. In Paul's letters, he would say people's names, you know, like that just that little simple, like, hey, John, how you doing? So good to see you. Hey, I miss you. I hope you're doing good. How can I pray for you? Next leader. Hey, Jen, how are you? Know what I'm saying? Like it's the personalizing of messaging. I think that students need, because fact is, I don't know if you've seen this, but students could log on to YouTube and watch any other preacher on the planet. They could literally they could be like, I live in Singapore, but I'm attending Stephen Furtick's church, and they're like, I am a member of Elevation Church, and the advantage that we have with our people, it's the personal relationship that the Stephen Furtick, that the Rich Wilkerson, that the other leaders don't have with your people. They can go and listen, it's awesome. But what you can offer them is personal connection. You can offer them, I know your name. I know your family. You know my life. You know my family. You know. So I think that's so incredible that as we continue moving forward, this would become a part of what we do, whether we are back in a pandemic or we meet in person again. So we have a few more minutes here, but what does the rest of this year look like for you? And by the way, Pastor Joel Tan is one of the greatest youth pastors on the planet. I got to speak at his camp like probably 4 years ago. I was asleep probably the whole time because of the jet lag. I don't know what I preached, so I pray that the Lord used it. But his youth ministry is a ministry founded on prayer. And Pastor Jeremy and you guys are just so incredible. If you guys don't know their church and you're in Singapore, get to their church, by the way. But I want to hear from you guys, just your final thoughts on what's the rest of this year look like for you in terms of family and church and ministry.
Yeah, so well, for family, hey, we have a 17-month-old. Rest of this year is gonna just be making sure she doesn't do anything crazy. She's been doing crazy things. She flipped off a couch yesterday, took down a couple plants with her. So just keeping the kids alive, that'll be a win for us this year. But for church, I think one of the things that we've started to shift gears in. So just for context, right now we're able to do services. We're able to have people back in person, but it's still with all the measures. So we're capped at 200. You've got to have a meter between people, zones of 50, maximum 3 meters between zones. Just all these kind of measures and stuff. So it's still not like normal by any means. You're still in masks, like hugging people all over the place. But what we felt was, hey, it's time to start winning souls again. Not that it ever stopped, but this is the time to get back to seeing people come to Jesus. And so for the rest of this year as a church, I think that's what we're going to be gunning for. Because one of the things we realized was that in a season like this, it's so easy to be led by circumstance. It's so easy to be led by restrictions and measures and all that kind of stuff. But I think we came through this learning that, hey, you know what? We're not gonna adapt our vision to the circumstance. We're gonna find ways to adapt to the circumstance, yes, but based on vision. What's the vision that our senior pastor is gunning for? What's the vision that the house is gunning for? And believing that, you know what, measures are changing all the time. Governments may change, whatever, all that stuff may change, but God doesn't change. People's need for Jesus doesn't change. These things never change. And if God said he'll do something, he's gonna do it. It just might look a little bit different than what we thought it would be. He's not shaken by COVID. His plans are not messed up. He knew this thing was coming like from day one. And God moves not just because of I believe like a circumstance or because of a season. He moves because of hunger. When we're hungry for something, God's gonna move. If in this season we were hungry for God to speak to us, God to change us, God's gonna speak, God's gonna change. If in this season we're hungry for salvation, we're hungry for souls, we're hungry to touch people, to impact lives, that's exactly what God's gonna do. And we've seen it. We've actually seen our small groups in our youth ministry grow by 25% in the last year. And what we believe is that, hey, you know what? We're gonna stay hungry. We're gonna have a desire for God to move. And for the rest of this year, we're going to be hungry for souls. We're going to be hungry for the harvest. And I believe that we're going to see that happen.
Man, I'm fired up. Listen, Pastor Joel, anytime I hear Pastor Joel Tan, I'm like, all right, I got to go to Starbucks and talk to them about Jesus and win some souls. One thing that you said, and I was reminded of the scripture, and Paul says, you know, I'm in chains, but the word of God is not chained. And I just think that is key in this season. We're restricted in chains in a sense, but the word of God has never been restricted. The word of God has never lost its power, its effect, and we ought to utilize and capitalize on the word of God. So I love that, Pastor Joel. Ben, how about you? What's the rest of this year look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, on a personal level, I'm getting married in June, so I think that's like kind of the big target I'm super pumped for. But talking about ministry, I think we're really, we're hitting month 7 of a ministry, and it's exciting to see what God's done in 7 months. And I think for us, I think the harvest has been. We've been blessed with a lot. I think of the story of the talents, and I think God's really handed us 5. I mean, in 7 months, because we are able to check in because of tracking and contact tracing. I mean, we've seen almost 800 students in 7 months come through our doors. And I think now the question I'm asking myself for the rest of this year is, okay, how do we steward this well? And how do we continue to make disciples? Discipleship has been the biggest thing I'm now leaning into. The Great Commission is not put out great content or take great photos or preach even super well. It's go make disciples. And I've learned that the fruit that comes from discipleship, even in this season for us, is so much greater than anything I can try and produce myself. It's like God gives me a vision of evangelism, and that's my heart. But I pour that into a 17-year-old, and to watch how their brain takes that in, and they're now on Snapchat making prayer hotlines and reaching their friends. It looks different for each of us, but it's like that discipleship fruit has been so amazing here. So we're really like just trying to partner with our city. We're doing a conference in May of this summer, and we're like completely contextualizing it to this area. We got like surf camps, skate camps, basketball camps, partnering with FCA and local schools, and got some, obviously speakers coming in, and the gospel's, going to be promoted. It's just really cool because it's like, I think my pre-assumptions of how to even do conferences looks different now. It's like, I'm not trying to force students into a church bubble. I'm bringing their activities and their passions and just kind of plopping it in our church and saying, hey, like, let's build a skate park, come skate here. And the rest of this year is really just like, okay, let's steward what God gave us. And let's continue to just take ground in the city day by day by day. And I want to see, our circles of discipleship just flourish throughout the end of this year. The big thing for me is just like, how are we multiplying? How are we getting more leaders on board? How are we, having more lives transformed on a deeper and more personal level? How are we going from right now? Our groups are like 50% of our attendance, which is really awesome. But I'm like, let's hit 75 by the end of this year. How do we get every student in a group? I'm just like, there's no ceiling for us right now. I feel like it's just like, how do we continue to just ask big prayers, ask God big things, and then be faithful to back it up with our faithfulness, our obedience, and our motives. So yeah, man, I'm super blessed to be in this position. I'm excited for what God's going to do for the rest of 2021.
Man, incredible, absolutely incredible. Thank you guys for your story, your voice, your influence, your experience, and really just what so much that I wrote down again that I'm stealing and I'm using the rest of this year, and I'm going to pass it off as my own. But honestly, guys, thank you for your time. Appreciate you, Joel. Thank you for joining in all the way from Singapore live. And listen to me, you got to get Ben out to a conference or camp. He's incredible. You guys got to connect. Follow each other on Instagram the way that, that's how we connect, in culture today. But thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. Thank you for everybody watching. I'm going to pass this over to Jake, and we're going to end this time together.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Thanks, everybody. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I did the math. That's 730 days worth of knowledge that you just got in about 45 minutes. I didn't add any from Dan. because we got some of that earlier. So thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been phenomenal. And I want to remind you at 3:30, come back here. We'll need your cameras on so that we can play some games, give away some prizes. If you're unable to make it at 3:30, we will see you at 6 o'clock tonight for our evening session. Do not miss it. Life Collective is going to be here live, and we're just going to have a great time. Other than that, take this time. Come back at 3:30. Let's play some games. If you haven't yet, go to lifepacific.edu/apply. You can apply now. Like I said, that's going to enter you into a $1,000 scholarship raffle. And if you just want some more information, go to lifepacific.edu/learn more. We'll see you guys back at 3:30.
And it's backed up with your own life, because your heart is everything my heart needs, everything my heart needs, everything I need. Your heart is everything my heart needs, everything my heart needs, everything I need. Security's not worth it, waiting fool's gold, but for a moment it feels nice. But on your love I can bet my bottom dollar, 'cause it's the only thing that truly satisfies. And all that this world has to offer is only paradise. But your love is worth so much greater, and it's backed up with your own life, because your heart is everything my heart needs, everything my heart needs, everything I need, that I need. Your heart is everything my heart needs, everything my heart needs, everything I Your heart is 24 karat gold, and from me you don't withhold your love for me, your love for me. Your heart is 24 karat gold, and from me you don't withhold your love for me, your love for me. Yeah, your heart is 24 karat gold, and from me you don't withhold your love for me, your love for me. Yeah, your heart is 24 karat gold, and from me you don't withhold your love for me, your love for me. Because your heart is everything my heart needs, everything my heart needs, everything I need. Your heart is everything my heart needs, everything my heart needs, everything I Your heart is everything my heart needs, everything my heart needs, everything I need.
You keep me in perfect peace. Burdens are lifted up in the name of Jesus. In the name in the name of Jesus. You call me out to rejoice, Jesus. You call me out to be yours, Jesus. So I declare, rest in your loving arms. I love the way you welcome me. So I run back to you, Lord. I run back to you. I run back to you, Lord. I run back to you. I declare, rest in your loving arms. Jesus, Jesus, we sing hallelujah. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, all the glory to your name. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, we sing hallelujah. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, all the glory to your name. Oh, we declare, rest in your loving arms. In the name of Jesus, we love the way you welcome us. So we run back to you, Lord. We run back to you. We run back to you. We run back to you. Run back to you. We run back to you. We declare, rest in your loving arms.
I've got a savior who loves me. I can't keep it inside. He gave me joy that I can't contain, and I know I've got a light to shine. I've heard his voice through the whispers, felt him in quiet nights. The devil ain't got no hold on me, 'cause I know God is on my side. Amen. Amen. my King. Glory, honor, and praise to you, my King. To you, my King. We sing glory, honor, and praise to you, my King. To you, my King. Oh, glory, honor, and praise to you, my King. To you, my King. All creation, lift up your praise till the universe is shaking for all of our days. All creation, lift up your praise till the universe is shaking for all of our days. All creation, lift up your praise till the universe is shaking for all of our days. All creation, lift up your praise till the universe is shaking. Amen. Amen. We sing I've got a Savior who loves me. I can't keep it inside.
For more than 90 years, LPU has offered high-quality Christian education for learners who desire equipping that is centered around the Word of God and empowered by the life-giving testimony of Jesus Christ. The purpose of the Institute is twofold: the preparation of evangelists and missionaries for the field, and a thorough Bible instruction for those not intending to enter the field. And that is really key. The church, local and global, but also the marketplace in business, psychology, communication, strategic leadership, worship arts and media, and the list goes on. We are both and we truly believe the church is wherever we are, bringing the gospel of Christ to a broken world. This year, as a community, we will rise with courage and we will see God do amazing things.
right, guys, welcome to our game show. I have a treat for you. Our host for the game show is Kelsey Spolstra. She is joining me into the chapel, and we are excited to play this game. Kelsey, how you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to do some trivia questions.
Well, that's good because that is exactly what you're going to be doing. All right, guys, here's the thing. I need cameras on. Okay, we need cameras on because we need to see if you're ready and willing to participate. So let's get cameras on. We've been naming you. We have the blue team and we have the gold team. All right, two very important teams near and dear to the Life Pacific University heart. Kelsey, can you explain your experience with the game Jeopardy?
You know, I watch it sometimes with my grandparents or with my parents. It's a lot of fun. You will select a level of question. We'll give you a question. You'll answer. That's my experience. It's going to be great.
No, yeah, your experience, not what we're doing today, just in general, how you've experienced Jeopardy. So you watch it with your grandparents.
Yes.
That is adorable. I would assume grandparents are probably just the majority of people who are still watching Jeopardy, so that's perfect. So today's game is going to be very similar to Jeopardy. So what we're going to do, I'm going to be running off screen in just a minute, and we're going to leave this all to Kelsey. And I'm going to run things on the back end. But basically, it's going to be a lot like Jeopardy. So you are either the blue team, you are either the gold team. We took the liberty of contacting Social Security, and your name has been formally changed in our Zoom, or is in the process of being so. And you are either on the blue team or the gold team. Now, what Kelsey's going to do, once we run through the categories, again, it's like Jeopardy if you haven't seen it. There's going to be 5 categories. Bop, 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 bop. And then there's 5 questions for each category. The more points the question is worth, the harder the question's going to be. But if you get it right, the more points you're going to get for your team. If you get it wrong, you're going to lose points for your team. So be careful. You're going to get to pick. Kelsey is going to say, I need someone from the blue team, or I need someone from the gold team. When we select you, it'll be up to you to pick what question you want to tackle for your team. I would encourage you all to not use the chat to give away the answers to your team. I would also encourage you not to use the chat to give away answers to the other team. It's just good practice. So that is the name of the game. If you have any questions along the way, use the chat for that. Not trivia questions, though, because that'll get confusing. So I think that we are about ready. Again, we would love your camera to be on. Otherwise, we can't select you, probably, because we won't know if you're playing or not. But we'll do our best to do it. We're doing this on the fly. Kelsey, I'm going to have you just give another brief rundown of what's going to happen, which is merely to buy me time to go get set up on my computer. Good luck, everybody.
Yes. All right. So we will be taking volunteers for who wants to answer the question, and then we will let you select a question. You'll see the categories. You'll see the level of questions. So you can select the question from there. Once the question is selected, that question will appear on the screen. I will read it to you. You can read it yourself, and then we'll be looking for an answer. That is the way that this game is going to go. It's going to be a lot of fun. I also was remembering that I watched Jeopardy! The Greatest of All Time over the summer. They brought 3 contestants back who have won the greatest amount of money, have answered the most questions, things like that. And it was very intriguing. It was a 5-episode series. I think I watched the first 3, and I had to look up the ending of it because I was very intrigued. So that is my investment in Jeopardy! This is going to be fun. Are we ready, everybody? The screen should be changing soon with the questions, and then we will get started. All right, welcome to the Rise with Courage game show. All right, here are today's categories. The Bible, animals, geography, pop culture, and random trivia. That one's a gamble. You never know what you're going to get. All right. So you can see the levels. You can see the categories. and let's get started. All right, I need a volunteer. Who would like to go first? All right, we're just gonna give 1 second here while we get things situated. Get ready. Start thinking about which category you're gonna go for. For me, I don't know if I would go with geography because that's a hard subject for me personally, but maybe some of you out there are really good at geography.
Okay, I can unmute now. I can go first, although I'm honestly really scared because
right.
I'm horrible at trivia.
This is gonna be great, Anais. Thank you for volunteering. Which category would you like and which level?
Let's try animals for 100.
All right, animals for 100. The question is, what is the largest animal in the world?
Oh my gosh. I think it's between the elephant and the blue whale or some whale. I think it's the blue whale. I'm just gonna go with that. If I'm wrong, it's okay.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
All right. Is it the blue whale? You got it correct. Well
Yay.
done. That is 100 points for the blue team. Congratulations, Anais. All right, back to the game board. And we'll need another volunteer. Isaiah. All right, Isaiah. Go ahead.
Can I go for geography?
Isaiah. Yes, geography. That's a bold choice. I love it. Geography for what number?
I'm gonna go for 100.
All right, geography for 100. What is the capital of Arizona?
Wow, I forgot. This is probably wrong, but Texas? It's wrong, I know.
One more time?
I said Texas, but it's Phoenix. I'm so,
All right, the answer is Phoenix. That's okay. There is still plenty of time in the game to catch up. I'm just going to throw this out there. If you get it wrong, that is okay. We're just here to have fun. There are a couple prizes on the line for the winning team, but this is just meant to have fun. All right, next contestants. Kellen.
Can I have
All right,
pop
Kellen.
culture for 200?
Pop culture for 200, absolutely. The question is, what fictional town does SpongeBob SquarePants live in?
He lives in Bikini Bottom.
All right, well done. Bikini Bottom, that is correct. That is 200 points for the blue team. All right, good job, blue team. All right, I need another contestant from the gold team now. All right, Abby. Go ahead and unmute yourself and select your category and level. All right, Abigail. All right. Abby, if you're not on, we're going to go with Emily. All right, Emily, if you're here, go ahead and unmute yourself. Hello, Emily. How are you? I know we were talking earlier. So glad that
Hi,
you can
Kelsey.
be here. All right.
I'm doing great.
Hi. What category would you like and what level?
I could do pop culture for 100.
All right, pop culture for 100. The question is, who has the hit single Perfect and Shape of You?
Ugh, that one's really easy. Ed Sheeran.
That is correct. All right. Well done, Emily. Putting the gold team back up into the positives. This is great. All right. Moving right along. We need a contestant from the blue team. All right. Danielle?
Yeah, I can go.
Can you be our next contestant?
Yeah,
All right, Danielle.
do the Bible 100?
Which one? I'm sorry?
The Bible 100?
Bible 100. Absolutely. All right. Bible 100. What is the first book of the Bible?
Genesis.
That's right. You must go to Bible college.
I must.
Well done. Well done. All right. Blue team is doing great. We need another contestant from the gold team. Let's put us up into the positives this time. All right. Gold team. Maggie. Maggie.
Yes. I'll do
Nice.
random trivia 200.
All right, random trivia. I also feel like that one's a bit of a gamble. This is great. Random trivia. Which singer's real name is Stefani Johann or, oh wow, Stefani Johann Angelina Jamantan? Jamada. Oh my goodness, that was tongue twister. Do you know the answer to this, Maggie?
Yes, I believe it's Lady Gaga.
And the answer is ding, ding, ding. Well done, Maggie. All right. The gold team is on the board. Well done, gold team. Next contestant from the blue team. All right, Lisa. You are our next contestant on the Rise with Courage Conference Game Show. All right, Lisa, are you available to unmute yourself and select a category and question? All right. Karen, are you available? If Lisa's not available, we'll go with Karen. All right. Karen, if you're not available, we're going to go with Abby. Is Abby available?
Me or another Abby?
Yes, you.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. Go ahead and select the category and then select a level of question.
I'll do the Bible 200.
All right, Bible 200. The question is, who is Jesus' mother?
Mary.
Well done. All right. That's it, gold team. Well done. All right, now a contestant from the blue team.
I can go.
Awesome.
Let's do the Bible 300.
All right, Bible 300. Where did Moses lead God's people out of?
It was Egypt, right? I hope it is. I'm just gonna say
Let's
Egypt.
find out.
Yeah.
Ding, ding. Well done. Egypt is correct. That is 300 points to the blue team. Well done. Any volunteers from the gold team? Gold team volunteers. All right, if not, Isaiah, would you mind stepping up to the plate once again?
Sure.
Awesome. Isaiah, pick a category and a question.
Could I go for random trivia 100?
Yes, random trivia for 100. In a website address, what does www stand for?
It's world www. World Wide Web.
All right, well done, Isaiah. Well done. That is 100 points for the gold team. All right. Lisa, can you volunteer for the blue team next?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Hi, Lisa.
I finally figured it out.
Let's go with animals for 200.
Animals for 200?
Yeah, let's try that.
Awesome.
Aw,
What is the smallest bird in the world?
I'd have to say the hummingbird.
All right. And the answer is the hummingbird. Well done. Well done. That is perfect. 200 points to the blue team. All right, gold team. It's still anyone's game. That's what they always say on Family Feud. It's still anyone's game. There's still a lot of points up on the board. So gold team, do we have a volunteer? Emily or Abby? Are either of you available?
Yeah, I can go.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. Pick a category to question.
I could do pop culture again for 300.
Awesome. Pop culture for 300. Who is the voice of Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story? That's a great question.
I think his name was Tim Allen, but I could
The
be
answer,
wrong.
Tim Allen? It is. Well done, Emily. That is 300 points for the gold team. Whoa, the gold team almost in the lead. This is exciting. All right, blue team, this is your chance to keep the lead. Any volunteers? Kevin, would you mind volunteering?
Yes. Can we do geography for 300?
Yes, geography for 300. What country is Mount Everest located in?
Ooh, is it in Nepal?
Is it in Nepal? It is in Nepal. Well done. 300 points to the blue team. Well done. Well done. All right, gold team, you're up. This is your chance. There's a lot of points up on the board. Gold team.
I'll go.
Awesome. Thank you, Abby. What is the question you would like to answer?
I'll do the Bible again, 500 points.
Ooh, 500, our first 500er. Awesome. How many pieces of silver did Judas betray Jesus for? Ooh.
Ooh. I'm probably gonna get this one wrong. 9?
Was it 9?
Oh, I'm sorry, guys.
30. That's okay. That is okay. There's still a lot of points up on the board. It was a bold move to choose 500. Well done. Well done. All right, blue team. Here we are. Who is the next contestant for the blue team?
Can I try the 400 Bible?
Yes, Danielle, 400 Bible category.
Ooh,
How many books are
66. 66.
All right.
Yay!
Is it 66? It is. Well done. Well done. All right. Well done. Still anyone's game. There's still a lot of points up on the board. There's well over 2,000, 3,000 points up on the board. So it's still anyone's game. Gold team. Who would like to go next? Let's see.
You said gold
Maggie,
team,
can
right?
you go next?
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Yeah, I can go next. I'll do pop culture 400.
Pop culture 400. Black Panther starred which famous actor?
Chadwick Boseman.
That's correct. Well done. Well done. 400 for the gold team. That's great. Well done, gold team. There's still a lot of points up on the board. Blue team. Who would like to go next? Let's see. Lisa, would you like to volunteer next? All right. Or Kevin, are you available?
Yes. Can we do geography for 200?
Yes, geography for 200, our last 200 question. True or false? Alaska is the largest state in the U.S.
Ooh, I'm gonna say true.
Is it? That is true. Alaska actually geographically takes over about 2/3 of the continental US. So it's a very large state. So that's a fun fact for you. All right. Gold team. Who would like to go next on the gold team? Gold team. Let's see.
I can go again.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. Go ahead and choose a question.
I can do pop culture for 500.
All right, pop culture for 500. Who performed at the 2020 Super Bowl halftime show?
It was J-Lo and Shakira.
That is correct. Remember the 2020 halftime show when there was 50,000 people, 100,000 people all together at one time? Crazy how the world has changed. Well done, Emily. Well done. Look at gold team is catching up. Blue team, this is your chance to, stay in the lead. Blue team, who is the next contestant?
All right, I'm ready. I'll try it.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. Choose a question.
Let's go with animals for 300.
Animals for 300. What is the collective name for a group of lions?
I know this. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Really? Oh my God. I know this. Geez. I'm sorry, guys. Oh my God. Really?
Can I answer for the blue team?
I don't know. I think it has to be the volunteer.
I know this, but I'm old, so I forgot it. It's on the tip of my tongue. Oh my God.
Hey, you're put on the spot.
Pride,
I
a
get it.
pride,
A lot of
a
pressure.
pride, a pride. Oh!
Here you go. Congratulations. Something to be
Where I
proud
knew
of.
it. Wow. Sorry, guys. Sorry for the scare.
Well done. Keeping us on our toes. All right, next team, gold team. Who would like to go first? Go next. Anybody on the gold team? All right, let's see. Isaiah, would you like to volunteer again?
Sure. I guess I'll go for random trivia at 300.
All right, random trivia 300. Where were the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights stored during World War II? Wow, that is quite the question.
I want to say the White House or the Lincoln Memorial. I'm pretty sure I'm wrong on both of those.
All right, which one would you like to choose? Your final answer.
Lincoln Memorial.
All right, is it the Lincoln Memorial? It is Fort Knox. That is a tough question. Tough question. Good job, Isaiah. Thank you for volunteering. All right, blue team, you are up next. Which question would you like to take next? Let's see. Who would like to go next for the blue team?
I can go, but I probably won't get any of these right because they're in the 400 category.
Come on, it's good. We need some positivity. Which question would you like to choose?
Let's go for geography 400.
All right, geography 400. What is the capital of Spain?
Madrid?
Is it Madrid?
Yes, I got it right.
Congratulations. All right. Hey, believe that you can and you're halfway there. Well done, Anais. Next question. All right, category or next team is the gold team. Who would like to go next? Gold team. Let's see. Abby, can you go next?
Yeah, sure. I'll do the animals for 400.
All right, animals 400. Leonardo and Donatello are two characters from which series?
Ninja Turtles.
Is it Ninja Turtles? We'll take it. That's awesome. Well done, Abby. That's 400 points for the gold team. Gold team, you still have a chance here. There are still plenty of points on the board for you to win this game. All right, blue team, who would like to go next? Let's see. Danielle, would you mind going next?
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't know if I'm gonna be good at this.
No, you're gonna do great. You're gonna do great.
I
Which
guess
category would you like?
I can try geography.
All right, geography 500. The question is,
Oh,
what is the smallest country in the world?
oh my gosh. That's hard. Well, I went on a mission trip to one of the smallest countries in the world, but is it Vatican City?
Is it Vatican?
Oh my gosh.
Well done. Well done, Danielle. Vatican City. I've been there. It is beautiful and so historic. So it is a wonderful place to go if you ever get the chance. Add it to your list. Well done, Danielle. All right, gold team. This is your chance. I believe in you guys. You can do it. Who would like to go next?
I can go.
All right, thank you, Emily. What question would you like? What category and question?
I could do animals for 500.
All right, animals 500. The question is, murder is the collective noun for a group of what bird?
I think it is a crow. But I could be. Oh yeah, it is.
Well done. Well done. That is correct. A murder of crows. That is a fun fact if I've ever heard one. That is a classic trivia question. Well done, Emily. 500 points for the gold team. All right, blue team. This might seal the deal. Who would like to go next? Blue team. Let's see. Evelyn, would you like to go next?
Sure. Can I do random trivia for 500?
Yes, random trivia for 500. How many of Snow White's 7 dwarfs have names ending in the letter Y?
What?
Go ahead and take your time. Maybe you need to think of the names, count them out.
Can I do 5? Is it 5?
Is it 5?
Ooh.
5. Well done. Dopey, grumpy, sneezy, happy. Well done and sleepy. Well done, Kevlin. All right, there is one more question on the board that goes to the gold team. Gold team, who would like to take the last question? Gold team, let's see. Abby, can you take the last question for me?
Okay.
Awesome. Random trivia 400. What is the tallest breed of dog in the world?
I have no idea. I don't have a dog, so I'm not into dogs.
Take a guess.
The Great Dane.
Hey, well done. The Great Dane. You got to say it with some confidence. That was great. Well done. All right, that concludes our competition. Congratulations to the blue team. You did phenomenal. But I just like to say that you guys all did incredible. I think almost every single one of those questions was answered correctly. So well done to both the gold and the blue team. To the blue team, you are all going to get a gray hooded sweatshirt in the mail. So well done. Congratulations. We're so excited for you guys. But hey, you all won because you all had fun, right? That's what we always say. You won if you had fun. So I hope you all had fun. I hope that you guys were able to learn some new fun facts, learn some new trivia facts. Next time you do trivia, you're going to be pros. So well done, everybody. This has been so much fun. I'm glad that we've gotten to play a fun game during this conference. I think we can all agree that this conference has been phenomenal so far, and we do still have one session later today. That's going to start at 6 o'clock. It is currently 4 o'clock right now here, Pacific Standard Time. I don't know where you guys are all located, but this next session is going to start in 2 hours from now with Pastor Bianca. She is incredible, and she's going to lead us, I already know, in such an compelling and encouraging word from the Lord later today. So stick around for that next session, but for now, take a break, eat some dinner, and we'll see you back here at 6. See you guys.
Can go up high or seas below. It's more than we can